endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key of enhancing our performances and for our growth as professionals. With this principle in mind, TechGig has initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give a crisp insight of various domains. Topic for today's webinar session is Critical Success Factors for Project Risk Management. We are delighted to have Mr. Ramesh Ralo, Project Manager at Dubai World, with us today. Ramesh has more than 17 years of experience in different roles as Project Manager, Service Delivery Manager, Consultant, Technical Lead, and team members deploying complex and business critical projects. He has worked for organizations like CNC Limited, TCS, Ethos Origin, and Dubai World. Ramesh is a certified project risk management, project management professional, and ITIL V3 certified. He has expertise in end-to-end project planning and implementation, right from scope management to project planning, effort estimation, risk analysis to quality management. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue from next 45 minutes and we'll take your questions after the presentation. In the meanwhile, you can post your queries through the chat pane available in the webinar software. Without further ado, I introduce you to our guest speaker, Mr. Ramesh.
We can see your slides as well as hello. Oh, we are not able to hear you. Your voice is still not coming.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so I have to use my laptop microphone basically.
I think this is fine.
Is it
Voice is good enough.
this fine?
Please go ahead.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, friends, for attending the seminar and taking out time from a busy schedule. Apart of this, I would also like to thank TechGig for providing me an opportunity to provide to share the knowledge across all the technical people out there who are part of this webinar. With no further delay, we start the presentation. The agenda for our presentation would be based on what is project risk. What are the causes of project risk? What is the project risk management plan? What is project risk management plan? Building a project risk management plan and project risk management methodology, and about project risk management in an organization. Use of tools for project risk management, then about critical success factor for project risk management. Okay, so when we say risk, so what is risk? Just to highlight what is risk, I've just it's a cartoon which shows how people are doing many things. By doing those things, they are risking themselves, the entire environment. This is how about just a small cartoon to show about what is risk. Now coming back to project risk. Project risk is an uncertain event with positive or negative impact. Whenever we talk about risk, we always think, oh, risk is negative. No, but risk can be positive. In common language, in the risk terminology, we call threats for negative risk and opportunities for positive risk. Primary components include, when we are talking about the components of risk, is that how do we measure the probability that a risk event will occur, the impact of the risk occurring on a project. Let's take an example. Let's assume that you are planning an outdoor festival for your organization, and you know the rain, because in India rain falls at any time during, especially when you are in the rainy season time, near and so rain can fall anytime. So rain is a threat to your outdoor festival. The rain can have an impact on your program, on the outdoor festival which you are organizing. It can affect the attendance, and it can also, in return, it will affect the revenue which was supposed to be getting generated. I hope everybody is aware of this slide, which we have been seeing in the IT world since ages. Just to bring in some humor in this. What are the causes of risk? The causes of risk are associated with variance in estimate. Let's assume an example that you have estimated for doing a particular task X amount, but it was estimated by a different person. Okay, because in our organization, in any organization, what happens is that the person who estimated and the person who implement are always different. So probably there is a variance in that. So that's how the risk occurs when you overshoot your budget. Obviously, everything is related to your finance, which the business, what this project is going to generate. Other than that, there are uncertainty about the basis of estimate. Let's assume in a software project, there are some situation where you have some basis on which you had estimated, but as time progresses, things change, and the basis which you have worked out may not be the same. So this is again an uncertainty. So this is again a cause of risk. Then uncertainty about design and logistics. You know, the technology changes very fast. So let's assume, especially this happens, this uncertainty I have seen especially in government sector, because whenever we design a solution for a government sector, by the time the actual execution time comes, the technology has changed in a major way. So this is again uncertainty, because getting all those getting again the design specification and everything matched with what the actual requirement was. Then uncertainty about objective and priorities. Just as I said, because we are living in a very dynamic world, what happens? The objective of a particular project changes, or the priorities changes, because let's assume I had a priority to bring in a particular software in the industry by December, but when we had another project which was developing a mobile application which was planned 2 months after that. But now as things are changing, things are changing, so your objective has now changed, because you want to launch the mobile-based application first rather than going in for the other application. This is one cause of risk. Uncertainty about fundamental relationship between project parties. In today's scenario, normally what happens is that if I want to develop a solution, I alone, as most of the organizations, do not have all the expertise within them. So they form a consortium with other companies who can be part of this and they participate in the project in reaching its objective. And all of a sudden, if there is any relationship change, so this could lead to the project risk. I hope I am doing well and I am able to, everybody is audible, and I am not at a very high pace. I think everybody is fine, so we can move now. Okay. What's the goal of project risk management? The goal of a project risk management is to identify risk within the project and develop a response to either reduce the impact or probability that negative risk will occur and increase the probability and impact of positive risk or opportunities. Just as I said, what is risk? Risk is nothing but which can impact is an uncertain event which can impact your project objective negatively or positively. So the goal is just to identify the risk within the project and develop a response, so that we can take the opportunity, we can bank on the opportunities, or we can avoid the negative part of it. In short, the risk management goal would be to have a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. Then to have a greater control of project. Risk management helps, the project risk management helps you to have a greater control of the project. Similarly, it also helps you to decrease the probability of negative events that could happen, and it increases the probability of the positive events that are supposed to happen. In short, the goal of project risk management is to say go or no go, or go or stop. The project risk management is based on the PMI framework. In the project risk management process, we have the plan project risk management, the identify risk process, the quality. These are all part of the project risk management which the PMI has. There's nothing. Just this is the basis of my entire presentation which is going on. In short, when we are talking about project risk management and project management can be seen as an attempt to control this uncertain environment through the use of structured and disciplined techniques such as estimating, planning, cost control, task allocation, earned value analysis, monitoring, and review meeting, etc. We will try to see how we manage the risk. Basically, my target would be talk about more about the project risk management plan. So to manage the entire risk management process, what we are talking about is that you need to have a proper risk management plan. Risk management plan can be a risk management strategy of an organization. It can be a risk management plan also. Different organization calls it in a different way, or it can be a risk management policy. This is all what we are talking about. So what is the basis of coming up with a risk management plan? The basis for coming up with a risk management plan is to have agreed upon approach, then you have agreed upon definition, then you have the quality, the information what you are gathering for doing the risk management should be of high quality, and whatever we are doing, it has to be a very iterative process. So we'll try to get into the details of this pyramid. Now, agreed upon approach. The process is based, the risk management plan is based on an agreed upon approach. Where we can say what is the probability of occurrence, impact of an individual objective risk occurs, opportunities may arise, how we manage the risk, and most important is the risk categorization part. This is, I believe everybody would be aware of this. This is your probability scale. Now these things, when I'm talking about this thing has to be very clear during this at a very organization, means at the very top level of the organization. That's how the scale means whatever we define, how we categorize the risk and what rating we provide them. Just as I've seen here that the rating 3 category is possible, means description is 25 to 50% chance of happening. So we need to know that this is for this particular rating what the category needs to be defined. So everybody follows, everybody in the organization have a common understanding and has the common scale to measure the risk. So which would help everybody in the long run. Then this is the impact scale, similar to what we had the previous scale. Here also we need to have a well-defined structure where you can say when can we say that when we categorize a risk, the impact of a risk is very critical. When? So we need to have this thing predefined in our risk management plan. These are that's the impact scale which I know that the attendees, most of them are are from the project management background, and probably they might be aware that what we are talking about. Then we have the PI matrix, where this is what I was. This is a very important tool for rating the risk. Okay, based on this, you can say that this risk is high, this risk is medium. These are all just trying to highlight here is that basically we need to have a predefined approach or a predefined process or definition of what critical means. So every organization should have this ready before we start any project or the risk management of a project. So this will really help us to manage the project well, to manage the risk, and the organization can very well encounter any sort of risk or any sort of whether it is positive, whether it is negative, how it needs to be handled is predefined. Then there's the PI matrix, where just as it's a color coded thing, where all the things which are in red, they fall under a high category, fall under the critical part. So here, as a project manager, you need to be ready with a contingency plan for the risk, and have the contingency plan, whatever is required for making this contingency plan ready with you, and not wait for the risk to occur or opportunity to occur. You should be ready with that. Then we have the risk. This is another tool for managing the risk, where you have identified the risk and you have broken down into broad categories, that is management, external technology. There can be many categories. It is up to how the organization or how the team defines it. And there has to be a common consensus between all of them, that a particular category of risk. And you have to define you can define many levels, but I think this is the maximum which we can do when creating an RBS. It is similar to like creating a detailed work breakdown structure in a project management part. So this clearly defines where the pain area lies, so that you can hit those pain areas and try to mitigate those risks and reduce the impact of the risk. Another important part which I forgot in my earlier, I should have spoken earlier about this, is that whichever risk management methodology or tool or whatever you use, you cannot have risk completely out of your project. There will be risk, there will be risk. So risk cannot be ruled out. There is some risk you can have a mitigation plan, and some risk you can accept, and some risk may basically you need to keep all this risk. There, apart of this, there are also secondary risks. When we are talking about secondary risk, we are talking about a risk which may occur due to the impact of the risk which you have identified, which may trigger to another secondary risk. So these are the common. This is what I could say more about it. This is also another great tool when you are talking about risk management. The risk register. The risk register is nothing but it is the risk which you have identified during the risk identification process. Risk identification does not happen only during the risk identification process, as I mentioned earlier during the all the processes. Risk identification happens throughout the project, and whichever risk, when you see do not have a chance of occurring in between, so you keep all those risks in a watch list where you can keep it aside and revisit those risks very often to check whether what is the status of this risk. Now coming back to the risk register part, Risk register is nothing but an entry of all the risk which has the priority, just as we have seen our previous. Risk register is nothing, it is based on the PI matrix and the probability and impact scale which we have worked out. Based on and then we have worked out the risk RBS, the risk breakdown structure. So risk register is the top layer of all the, it works at the top layer of all these things which we discussed earlier. Risk can be, just as when we said about relative ranking and priority, again we are talking about the impact and the probability part. Then grouping of risk by categories, we are talking about the RBS, which is I said, this is sitting top on that. Then the causes of risk or project areas requiring particular attention. Just as I said, when we talk about causes of risk, okay, every cause of risk has an effect. So you need to know how that particular risk is going to affect which part of my project, whether it is going to be related to my communication management or related to my which part of the project, or it can be happen that this risk may occur when we go during the production stage, or it can happen in the UAT phase. So that's how it is. And then there are different varieties of risk where we say a list of risks requiring response in the near term. This is the list of risk where you need to have the response to this risk ready before you start the project. List of risks for additional analysis and response. This is again a list of risks where you do not have a solution to them right now, but you need to explore it further and find out what is the probability or what would be the impact of the risk occurs or the opportunity materializes. Then there are some low priority risks, just as I was talking about some risks which are of low priority. It shouldn't happen that you don't have an attention towards the low priority risk. It may also happen that as the time progresses, this low priority risk may get elevated into a high priority risk, or they may come into a critical state. So you need to put them in a watch list and revisit them at regular intervals. Then trend in qualitative risk analysis research. Based on this, what is the trend you can see in your qualitative risk analysis? This risk register can help you in seeing the trends in qualitative risk analysis part. Now risk priority. Risk priority is defined, I would say it is dependent upon the organization's risk tolerance factor. Let's assume an organization which is very new and wants to enter into the market of mobile computing, and he knows there is a risk, but he has to make an entry. So he may go ahead, he may say that, okay, whatever risk happens, I will go ahead with that. That is not a problem with me. So some organization may be where some organization may think, okay, if I go, then there will be an impact on my reputation or the impact of the workmanship which my entire team has done. So probably that organization may think, okay, let's do a calculated, let's work on the risk and see what category it is, and then we decide whether to go or not to go. Then defining the priority of a risk is dependent on the risk tolerance level in the organization and the objective of the project. Organization tolerance and the risk tolerance level in the organization and the objective of the project, these are two different things. Now you need to think about the risk priority, okay, based on the project objective rather than organization objective. Risk priority level vary from low to medium to high, which we already have discussed in our impact PI matrix. Now calculating the probability and impact values for each risk. Just as we said, I said that these are those scales which we saw in our previous slides. Those are the basis on which you can calculate the probability and impact values for each risk. If you don't have those things, those predefined definition or agreed upon definition within your organization, I think it is very difficult for you to assign the PI, the probability and impact values for each of the risks which you have identified in your risk register. Then how do you assign a probability value to an identified risk? There are various methods. Just like you talk about having an expert judgment, you talk to your technical team and take their view about whether the risk will materialize or whether the opportunity can materialize so that we can cash upon it. Or you can refer, because every organization has some historical information where you can refer those information and check out there a same type of project was carried out 2 years down the line, and they also had encountered this risk. How did they mitigate those, or how did they try to cope up with this risk? So those information can also be helpful to you. Or there are certain tools where you can use your Monte Carlo or your what if scenario and use the simulation to work out the PI matrix or to assign a probability and impact value for each risk. Then there are industry enterprise environmental factors, that is your industry database or benchmark. So based on this thing, you can assign a probability value to each of the identified risks. Now the impact of an risk can be measured qualitatively as well as quantitatively. Every organization has its own way of looking at risk, whether they want to see the quantity or they want to see the quality. It is dependent upon the organization. Risk data quality. This is very important thing in risk management, because when we are talking about risk management, we are talking about the information which we have collected. On the basis of that information, we are saying that this is a risk. So now you need to ensure that the data which you have collected about the risk or the opportunity that we materialize is of the required quality, because it should not happen that somebody was talking about it, so I put this as a risk. No, you have to have the data source which is coming from should be a valid source, and there should be some justification towards it that this is a risk. Anybody cannot say that the resource availability is a risk. I do agree, resource availability is a risk, but then how do we, on what basis are you saying that? The quality of the data which you are availing, it is of very prime importance. Not only that, the source of information, the legitimacy of the information, and how dependable. These are the things which you need to examine before putting that risk into the risk register. It's basically, I would say, is a pre-qualification in verifying the data what you have received about a risk, and then only enter it into a risk register. This will not only help you to reduce the list of risks, but also you are confident enough that you can handle this risk at any point of time, because this information has come from a reliable source, or this information is very legitimate, so I can work on it. Now, these are the characteristics of risk. I hope everybody is known about it. When we know there is going to a risk to happen, okay, this is a known risk to us. Just as the common known risk is that I was discussing previously was about resource availability, because at the end of the day, for any project, it is the people who are working on it, and people are human beings. It can happen that a team member who is working on your project suddenly quits. Or it may also happen that the person who was working on a project is sick, or he has an emergency at home and he has to go back. So this is about unknown risk, which we know. So as a project manager, you need to work on this and be ready with the contingency plan or with the proper response for this. Now, if you're talking to me about a response, what I normally do is that for HR, for resource management, I ensure that the team members who are working with me are listed down. I have their leave plan, I have their I have all these things, and I have their leave history. This is proactiveness from which we can do. Other than that, this is what the proactiveness. But other than that, the emergency you cannot calculate on it. Now coming back to the second part, known unknown. Item that will affect you, although you are not able to predict how and how much they will affect. Just as I said about the resource not available. Now, resource not available, but at what point of time, when, and how much is going to impact to you, you don't know. So this is known unknown. There are other risks, but I'm just using that same example down and down. Unknown unknown. Items that are beyond your ability to foresee, example, force majeure. Now let's assume that you are working on a project where suddenly some flood comes or something. So that this is unknown. You don't have any control over it as a project manager or an organization, whatever it is. There is no control over it. Then we are talking about risk trigger. An event that happens before a risk and suggests the possibility of the occurrence of the risk event. Just let's take an example, the risk trigger. Okay, now I'm talking about estimate. Now you know we all most of all the organizations in IT are global. So the fluctuation of the dollar value has an impact on the entire estimate which we have done. Let's assume the scenario where 8 months down the line we had taken some X conversion factor of dollar, but down the line when you can see that the rupee getting devaluated and all that, and see the dollar price rising, so probably that's a trigger which you can see that is going to impact your cost, impact your profit margin. And when it impacts your profit margin, it percolates down to the level which we need to evaluate it in a proper way. Now coming to the positive risk. Positive risk is nothing but an opportunity that impacts project objective positively. I can cite an example about how a risk which was there, but I was able to materialize into an opportunity. Okay, what happened was that there was a delay in the procurement of the networking components, and we also had to procure the servers, and the vendor chosen was a single vendor. And the vendor was ready for offering 50% discount if he receives both the network component and the server component order. Already there was a delay in the network component. So to get the opportunity, there were certain things which were beyond the control, and the procurement order placement of the network component got delayed, and which aligned with the time of the server component. So we took this opportunity and availed that 50% discount, even though there was an overall impact on the project. But then that's part of project. Talking about negative risk, I believe everybody is aware what is negative risk is all about. This is a very good picture, or graph which I would say. If you are seeing the probability and impact of risk, across all the phases of a particular project. Whenever you take any project, uh, at the beginning, you see that the risk in the project are very high, very high. If you are not sure whether the customer really needs this, whether you are not sure whether you will get the required team, you are not sure whether you will be able to complete on time, you are not sure whether the contract or whether the other required stuff will be available to you on time. So, but as in time progresses, the risk probability decreases a lot. So when you're at the closing phase, the risk probability is not zero, but it is very low. Similarly, the impact has a reverse. Whereas when you're starting a project, you are not sure how much it would impact if there is any change or anything happening in the project. So you are not sure. So the impact of the risk impact is very low in the starting phase of the or initiating phase of the project. But as you progress, if there is any risk which would occur, the impact of this risk would be higher and higher as we progress towards the closing phase of the project. I believe there is no questions for me. I saw something flashing. Okay. Now coming back to the stakeholder perception about risk. As you know, when you're doing any project, there are various stakeholders. So a stakeholder's perception about risk is very crucial because it controls the way in which risks are handled and documented. As an organization, you know that this risk is not, if it occurs also, I do have a mitigation plan. But the customer, who is one of the stakeholders, has a perception about this risk very negative. He says that, oh, this occurs and it is going to impact me very badly. So these are the things which these are things which are trying to highlight by this particular slide. Apart of this, I would suggest here is that basically you have to communicate whatever the risk register. The discussion means when you are talking about during a project review meeting or anything, project progress meeting or project review meeting, what or status review meeting, whatever you call it, the discussion of risk should be an agenda in those meetings, and you should run the risk register to the stakeholders and take their view on or check with them whether they have any update on any of the risk. And this will really help you to be ready, to be proactive in mitigating or finding a solution to this risk. Just again, when we talk about stakeholder, we're not talking about the customer itself. We are talking about the stakeholder who are outside your organization. Just as you are building a online service for people to update their information or to have some online ticketing solution. So in those scenarios, you need to check what is the external environment and how people would react to it. These are the things which I'm trying to mention in the third point. Okay. Now, coming back to as a project manager, okay, as a project manager, what is your role? Basically, you need to not only the role of the project manager, but a very important part is that when you are doing your risk management plan, you need to have the roles and responsibilities properly defined. Uh, so this would really be very helpful in identifying the risk, in finding a solution to the risk or trying to mitigate the risk, or to be ready with a response for the risk. Okay. Uh, as a project manager, talking specific to about project risk management, you should involve your stakeholder and your senior management in risk management related action. This is how you can get your management support when you are involved, when you're talking about when you're doing a risk management. Create an effective risk management plan. Obviously, this is a part of the organization strategy where you would be taking care of. Facilitate open communication between various stakeholders and involved parties. Then identify risk and uncertainty involved in the project. Devise response and plans to counter all the risks. Perform various analysis techniques to obtain full, near foolproof estimates. There's a typo error, it's a foolproof estimate. And continuously monitor and audit the risk. Escalate any issues that threatens to affect the outcome of the project. Keep stakeholder and management about important decisions. So, as a project manager, if you are able to if you do all this stuff, so this is what you can very easily uh, manage the project risk and meet your project objective um, with very less effort. I have a question, I think. How do we identify, let's take this question. How do we identify risk related to variability of the estimate, since we will not be sure of variability at the beginning of the project? Related to variability of estimate, okay, just as I said, okay, let's assume a scenario, okay, where you have proposed an X amount for doing the particular task. Okay, that's your estimate. Okay, but then after you have been awarded the project to go ahead with that, and you come to know that okay, basically the type of resource which was taken at that point of time, okay, or the cost of the resource which was taken at that point of time is now no more available. So that is how it is. Let's assume that you had estimated using what I would say a resource who had 2 to 3 years of experience. Now you don't have a resource of that category. Now you have a resource who is 7 to 8 years of experience, and he falls under a different pay scale. So obviously that is again your variance towards it. So that is what I'm trying to say. Have I answered your question, Gopal? I think we'll take all these questions later. I think I'm about to finish the slides. Okay. Now talking about risk acceptance. whenever in a project scenario, you cannot, you have identified the risk, you have listed down the risk, you know the response, but it is not that whether it is a risk going to occur or not, or whether the organization is ready with the response. There are various strategies, okay, is adapted because it is seldom possible to eliminate all threats from a project, which is what I was trying to say out here. So you cannot eliminate all threats. Just as I said in the beginning, okay, there will be risk in the project right from the beginning till the end. So you have to adopt a strategy for it. This strategy indicates that the project team has decided not to change the project management plan to deal with it. Basically, what happens is that in most of the responses, let's assume you have identified a risk, and to mitigate those risks, you need to have a change in your project schedule so that you can reduce the impact of the risk. So there are certain times, okay, no, I will go as it is scheduled because I have to deliver it on time. Whether the resource is available or not available, I have to take a risk, and you accept the risk and you move ahead. So you have not decided to change anything in the project management plan. So that's how it is. This strategy can be a positive strategy or a negative strategy. This can be either passive or an active. When we are talking about passive acceptance, then you are not going to take any action, but you say that, okay, होगा तो देखा जाएगा, जब होगा तब. So that's how it is basically when you're talking about passive acceptance of risk. Now, talking about active acceptance is to establish a contingency reserve. When you know this particular risk is going to occur or anything, okay, so you have a plan B for it or a contingency plan ready for it, which could include your additional amount of time, money, or you would have a resource who is who's shadowing the first resources to the primary resource. So in case of anything happening, you can use the secondary resource and start the project from where it was left behind. Now talking about risk acceptance strategy, okay. This is when you are just like your project is like a journey, okay, when you are with a start and an end, okay. Now, when you are talking about a risk acceptance strategy, it all depends upon what is the return you are going to get and how is the risk. So to cut it short, when should you accept risk? You can accept risk when you know a potential outcome can be determined, and when you know that the chances of success greater than failure, when you know that the company afford the potential loss, when you know that the company can afford, oh, this much loss, okay, my company can bear that, that's not a big problem for me. Again, the same important thing, you can accept the risk if you know that the information which has come for identifying this risk or doing the risk analysis for this particular risk has come from a reliable source. So you can accept those risks. Are the benefits of taking the risk clear? When you know that if this benefit means it would be obviously an opportunity, right? So when you know that if this opportunity occurs, you should be able to take benefit out of that. And the other last and important is that is this the only option available with us? There is no other way. So then these are the scenarios where you should accept risk. Now the general rule says that is about risk acceptance is that risk should only be taken if the benefit exceeds the potential cost of an unsuccessful outcome. I believe this is what we do normally. Okay, when we know that if we are going to get benefited, then only we move with this risk or we accept the risk. We will be talking about different risk strategies. Out of them, one is risk avoidance. Just like when you see a person when he is when walking on the footpath and he sees a banana skin lying on the footpath, he just takes a detour and he moves on. So that's how you avoid the risk. So it is a negative risk strategy. Risk avoidance involves changing the project management plan, just as I in the example which I've shown in cartoon. It shows that that the guy who is walking straight, he has to change it, he has to take a detour and um, avoid that risk. The project manager may also isolate the project objective from the risk impact or change the objective that is in geobank. Okay. He can basically it is about the project manager. He has to isolate the project objective from the risk impact, but he alone cannot do it. He has to take everybody into confidence and check whether we can avoid this risk. Then talking about risk transference. Risk transference is nothing but just I can show the card and you buy some insurance because there are certain negative risks. Okay, risk requires risk transfer requires shifting someone for all the negative impact of a threat with ownership. Transfer simply gives another party responsibility for its management. There are certain risks which you do not have any control, like a fire, theft. You don't have a control over. So you know that this may occur. So to avoid that, what are you doing is that you are buying insurance so that if anything happens, the insurance company will take care of it. But just to highlight, now the insurance also has certain mandates. Okay, we cannot accept. They also don't accept risk anything. Means whatever you say, okay, you can't take this risk of fire. But there are certain mandates. You need to have the fire. Yes, the warehouse should be in such a certain location. It should be guarded. It should have a fire protection system. Those are the various things which they have mandate, and based on those mandates only they accept this risk. So this is again a strategy, negative strategy, where you are transferring the risk to another third party. Now, risk mitigation. Risk mitigation is again a negative strategy. In this risk mitigation, you are not completely removing the risk. Means the risk is not getting negated, but you are reducing the probability or impact of an adverse risk event to be within the threshold level. Let's assume the risk that would have costed us $100,000. Okay, but after doing some mitigation plan on that, you come across that the risk will occur, but now the impact level has reduced to 10,000. So that's how it is. It's a negative risk strategy. So now risk exploitation part. Risk exploitation is a positive risk strategy where we are talking about converting that risk into an opportunity, selected for risk with positive impact where the organization wishes to ensure that the opportunity is realized. Just as I said, we set an example about the network component and the software and the server components order placement. Example, directly exploiting response include assigning an organization most talented resource to the project to reduce the time on completion or to provide lower cost than the original plan. Okay, so let's assume that this is how most of the this is again a business strategy. Okay, talking about, let's assume when you see any such thing, risk not having the particular task not happening on time, and you want to get it completed on time, so that if that gets completed on time, it is going to reduce the impact in a very drastic way, and it is going to benefit the organization by let's assume the customer says if you do a delivery by this particular timeline, okay, you can get a 10% bonus on whatever, or 10% on the bonus on that. So what you would do here is that you can put your most talented resource and get the work done fast, and that's how you can cash on the opportunity. Risk sharing. Risk sharing is again a positive risk strategy. Sharing a positive involves allocating some of or all the ownership of the opportunity to third party. Okay. Now let me just be clear on this part. This is not about buying insurance or anything. It is about let's assume that you have a particular customer X, okay, and you have been associated with this customer for since last 10 years, okay, and now the customer has an opportunity for developing a solution for its customer to pay their bill online. Now you know that you do not have the capability in-house to take this opportunity, but at the same time you also don't want to lose the customer. So what you do a strategy out here is that you do alliance with a company who is best in this solution. Okay, so that's how it is. You can take advantage of this opportunity. Now talking about risk enhancement. Again, a positive risk strategy. Basically, what you do is that now you have identified a risk, and you know that is going to, if that risk occurs, it is going to have a very positive impact on the risk, on the project objective and the organization objective. So what you do here is that you know what are the key drivers that would make this risk happen. So what you do here is that you're trying, you will work on maximizing those key drivers so that the risk occurs and take that opportunity. Just I have a certain example of enhancing opportunity include adding more resource to an activity to finish early. Just as I said, okay, in the previous example, okay, that the customer may say, you can get another, I can award you another project, but provided that we complete this particular project by end of this month. Now you know that what are the factors which are required to complete this project within this month, or what are the essential things which are needed to complete this project within this end of this month. So you start working on it and you put in your effort towards it, and you take your management into confidence, and that's how it is, and you can work on it, and this is what I'm talking about risk enhancement. Now this risk enhancement I'm talking about is that if you complete this project on time, there is a secondary risk which is going to occur and which will have a positive impact on your organization. That's how it is, talking about risk enhancement. Or now coming to the contingency plan. When we are talking about risk management, contingency plan plays a very important role. Project team makes a response plan in advance that under predefined condition it is, and believe that there will be a sufficient warning to implement the plan. Now let's assume that just as we talked about the risk register, where you have listed down all the risks, okay, and in that same risk register you have to qualify your, you have to quantify your risk or qualify your risk. When you do a quantification of your risk, you know that to meet this particular risk, okay, the quantification can be a positive or it can be a negative. Now, for doing anything, for mitigating any risk, or to be ready with the for the response of the risk, okay, you know that there is a certain amount of money required. So in the project, when you are estimating the project, you normally have a contingency plan, just as in most of the organization, I would say that let's assume you have calculated the whole cost of the project and you derive X amount. So at the end there is an estimation, there is a contingency factor. Some organizations take 5%, some take 10%, some take 15%, and some take 20%. Every industry, every company, every organization has its own percentage. So I would not, this is how the contingency plan work out. Just as I know that a contingency plan for this particular example which I started out here, just as what we talked about in our first slide, is about having an outdoor event. Okay. Now you know the rain dates. You can obviously this is okay. You can have a discussion with the Met department and check out what are the probable dates of rain occurring. So they can give you a tentative date. Now you have got the information from a reliable resource. So probably you will not plan a date on which the Met department has already said that it is going to rain on this day. You will not plan, schedule or program on that day. So that is what I'm just trying to highlight by this example. Now business continuity plan. Contingency plan and business continuity plan are two different things. Business continuity plan is prepared, basically created to prevent the interruption to normal business activity, protect critical business process from man-made and natural disaster, and minimize the effect of all resumption of business process. In an organization, okay, normally there are risks which are ongoing risks. Okay, so probably just as example, I would say is that a particular stock exchange. Okay, stock exchange it has to be available during the trading hours. Okay, and plus the data should be available to all the people 24/7, and the system should be online system should be up and running always. But now here, what would happen is that if the particular, let's assume that the people who are working on the Bombay Stock Exchange, okay, and there is some problem, and the people to Bombay Stock Exchange couldn't arrive on time, or nobody was able to start the online system. Just trying to give a vague example. So this is about the business continuity plan, to have the necessary amount of resources available so that you do not lose your business, just as like having a DR site at a particular different location. That's about the business continuity plan which I was talking about. Then about contingency reserves. Previously we had talked about was we are talking about contingency plan. Sorry guys, actually I misled somewhere. Actually, the contingency plan was about the contingency reserve, where I was talking about keeping certain amount within the project itself. Okay, that is about what talking about contingency reserve. And about the contingency plan is that your plan B. Yeah. sorry, actually, my mistake. Actually, we covered the contingency reserves in our previous slide when I was showing the contingency plan. Now, contingency plan is a plan B sort of thing. When you know, this is a risk response plan, okay? When you know that a risk is going to occur, if this risk occurs, I will do this plan for mitigating those risks. So this is about the contingency plan, is nothing about the plan B which we call. And we spoke about the contingency reserve, okay, during the previous part, where you assign a predetermined amount. Just as I said, the percentage differs from organization to organization, industry to industry. So now in contingency reserves also there are many type of reserves where you have inbuilt capacity, you have a certain percentage of the project cost within the project, or there can be certain scenarios where unknown occurs. Okay, the risk characteristics which we are talking about, unknown occurs. Okay, in those scenarios, what you can do is that there are management reserves where this contingency reserve is with the project manager, who can use this project, who will use this reserve with providing the justification and whatever is required depending upon the organization policy or procedure, so that he can use this additional time, money or resource. Now related to management contingency, there is something called management reserve or management reserve, where this is again part of to handle the unknown risk, which you don't know if you were not aware, so that you have not accounted it. Now the risk has occurred. Now it is the reputation of the organization. So they have to deliver the project. So at that point of time, you can use your management reserve and based upon the organization policy and process, and you need a justification for everything when you are talking about money. Yeah, this is just an highlight. Contingency reserve, you know that you are identified those risks. Okay, when you are planning when you are initiating, when you are costed for this particular project, at that point of time you are identified those risks, and based on those risks, now this risk has come into reality, so you can use this contingency reserve. Now coming back to I believe this is the last and final slide, and now coming back to the critical success factor for this particular for project risk management is about value of risk, commitment and responsibility. And then you have communication, your organizational commitment, your risk effort, and then your integration with project management. Okay. Now let's start with the value of risk management. Now project risk management should be recognized as a valuable discipline, okay, in an organization that provides an positive potential return on investment for organization, management, stakeholders, and team members. Now this is about the value. Means basically what I'm trying to say here is that the management should value risk management. Risk management, ठीक है, वो जब होगा तब देखेंगे ना, या not now. Let's talk about the risk when it occurs. Not that way. The management should have a value towards risk management. That is what I'm trying to say out here. Commitment and responsibility. Project participant and stakeholder, whoever are your project participant and stakeholders, should all have a commitment and responsibility for undertaking the risk and doing their roles and taking the responsibility and asking whatever is required from their side to mitigate those risks or to enhance those risks, or whatever is required for that particular risk, whether it's a positive or an impact or a negative. We should have that individual commitment or responsibility this is one of the key factors which could which can have project risk management success. Now, talking about communication, as part of project management, a project manager spends nearly 80% of his time in communication. So when you're talking about risk management also is part of project management. So communication about risk should happen at the right time and to all the stakeholders involved, so that everybody is aware that what will happen if this risk occurs, or they are ready with their response. And it is like basically to get a consensus from everybody, you need to communicate the risk properly. Now talking about organizational commitment, okay. Now organizational commitment, okay. When you're talking about organizational commitment, okay, the project risk management strategy, okay, has to fall in line with the organization goals and objectives also. So there has to be a commitment from the organization, okay, whenever requires a high level of managerial support other than the project management discipline, because handling some of the factors will require approval or response from others at level above the project manager. So you need to have an organizational commitment towards handling the risk. With this also one of the most important factors, that what we call management support. Okay. Now value of risk management and management support are two different things. Value of risk management is that the management should have a value for risk. Now here talking about organization commitment is about that for responding to a risk, okay, you need to have the management support, because if you're planning to use the contingency fund or any other thing, or you're trying to use the highly skilled resource of your organization, so here you should have an management support to help you in that. Now talking about risk effort. Risk effort okay, risk effort, when you're talking about risk effort, is about that and the project risk and management should be appropriate to its potential value to the project and the organization. Means whatever project risk management is talking about is means whatever risk effort you are going to put in, okay, it has to be appropriate and it should be working towards the outcome of mitigating those risks, or see about encashing the opportunities. Now another thing is that then the last and most important factor is that integrating of the risk management with project management, which is really very important, because project risk management cannot it cannot exist in vacuum. Okay, it cannot be isolated from other project management process. So project risk management requires the correct execution of the other project management processes also. So this is how these are all the critical success factors which will make project risk management easygoing, and which will help us to have the response or identify the risk or mitigate risk in a proper fashion. I hope I was able to meet everybody's expectation. I'm sure I will not taking the risk part of this was that I know I would not be able to meet everybody's expectation. This is what the risk which I had taken, but I did my best to deliver. So I now want a feedback from you all, so that whenever I do next webinar or something opportunity comes like this, I can really use this and cash upon it. So
we have shared the questions with you.
So I think I'll just simple. I'll just try to make it big so that Okay. Okay. Now, I think this is the first question, right? How do we identify risk-related variability of the estimate, since we will not be sure of variability at the beginning of the project? Gopal Krishna. Okay. Now, I think I have answered this question in the beginning itself. Gopal, I believe I have answered it, right? During our initial stage when I took this question in between. Okay. Now, I have answered this question, so I'll go to the second question. Okay. The second question is, what are the best ways to mitigate the risk associated with resources and time? Okay. It is Prasad who has asked this question. Okay. Now, a very good question, Prasad. Basically, just shared with you. Okay. The risk associated with resources are normally the non-availability of resource. Am I right? So this non-availability of resource can be worked out. Let's assume you know there are 10 members in your project team. So what you do is that you take, first thing is that I would suggest here is that you prepare a leave plan of all the 10 resources, and also check, basically the project may be starting now, okay, they will, whatever is the, so you need to know their leave what they have availed, okay, 2 months before or 6 months before. So based on that you can make a guesstimate that okay, this guy had gone on an annual vacation 6 months ago. So probably he may not go in this coming period of my time. So these are the things, and basically not only that, what happens is that you have to have this, or what I would in the project management language they call it resource management plan. Basically, where you have the resource leads, the resource or data with you, and you have to revisit this resource management plan very often with your team. Not very often, basically once in a month, or talking to them, asking them, are there any change in your leave plan? Because it may happen that his cousin may be getting married next month, which was not planned earlier. So it was not part of his leave plan. So this is one way. And about time, what I would suggest here is that whenever you are preparing your schedule for this particular project, okay, involve your team members and you take their feedback and check with them that and map them with their leave plan what they have made. And so what happens is that this builds in confidence within your team, and and you need to enhance, you need to emphasize on the criticality of this particular resource or this project, so that what happens is that the resource feels important and he is committed. Keshav? Now coming back, I hope I have answered the second question, Prasad. Prasad has another question. What are the major areas we can think to identify risk? What I would say here is that to identify risk, okay, you need to look, you need to look at each and every aspect of your project management. Management, I would say, not project. Basically, you need to start from the. Okay, when we can think to identify it. See, when at the start of the project, you can start thinking about identifying risk. And identifying risk does not stop at any stage of the project. Identifying of risk happens throughout the project life cycle. I hope, Prasad, I have answered your second question also. Coming back to the Third question. Would the project team be considered stakeholders at least with reference to risk identification? Project team consists stakeholders with reference to risk identification. They would not be, see, it depends upon what role the team member is, team is playing, okay. They can be, they obviously your project team is an important stakeholder in your particular project, okay. So in reference to project identification or project, I would say they are a major stakeholder in the entire risk management process. Okay. Now coming back to Akash Mittal. Should we have a separate risk meeting with project review meeting or include the risk agenda? I think I have answered this question during my presentation. I said that risk, whenever you are talking about a project review meeting, risk should be part of this meeting or should be in the agenda of this meeting. Should be. Differentiate the difference between contingency plan and mitigation plan. Mitigation plan and contingency plan may sometimes be the same. No, I would not say contingency plan. Contingency plan is something different, okay. Let's assume that when you are doing a particular project, okay, and you know by doing this approach, I may encounter this. So you try to change the schedule of the particular project and so that the risk will not occur. This is a contingency plan. Now talking about mitigation plan. In mitigation plan, what are you trying to do here is that probably is that you are trying to reduce the impact of the risk. In contingency plans also you try to do the same thing, but I would say in a broader perspective it is the same. Does BCP and DR plan be part of the risk management plan or would it be supplementary with reference to BCP or DR plan? No, it isn't supplementary to your risk management plan. It is not part of the risk management plan. It is supplementary. Just as we're talking about the management reserve. Management reserve is not part of your risk management plan. Okay, it is a supplementary, which you know there exists something. So in case of any unknown risk happening, I can use that. I hope Manish, I have answered your question. What is the difference between qualitative and quantitative risk analysis? Probably, in short, what I would try to say here is that when you're talking about qualitative risk analysis, okay, you are assigning a value, you are assigning a category to it. Let's assume high, critical, low, very low, normal, like that. But when you're talking about quantitative risk, you are assigning it a dollar value. I hope Sitaram, I have answered your question. How can we say that the organization tolerance is high or low? I would say that you need to refer your past project or the documentation which has occurred on the historical information in your organization to check out the risk tolerance part. I hope Sanjay, I have answered your question. Then about Anupam Srivastava. What about perform qualitative risk analysis versus the application in project management? Yes, it has to be part of your project management. What my presentation here covers is about how do we manage project risk and what are the tools we are going to use. So whatever tools I have talked about, the PI matrix, then the other things which I talked about is basically part of your quantitative risk analysis. So it is again, see, if you talk about the project management and perform qualitative risk analysis, perform qualitative risk analysis is a part of project management, is a part of risk management, and risk management is in turn part of the project management. I hope, Anupam, I have answered your question. Now talking about Rashmi Sudha. If a resource having 2 to 3 years of experience, then when can we think to allocate? When can we think to allocate the project? Rashmi, I cannot get your answer. What are you? Sorry, I am not getting your question. What you're trying to ask? What I can what I can infer from this question is that if a resource having 2 to 3 years of experience, then when can we think to allocate the project? No, Rashmi, I cannot get your question. Can you be more specific, please? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, Manish, thank you very much. I hope I have answered your question. Again, Prasad, I think Prasad is asking a lot of questions. Keshav, please note. Risk acceptance or avoidance will have impact on project management plan, and this will have an impact on scope, time, cost, and cost. Are there good practice to reduce the impact on 3 factors? Prasad, whenever any change, okay, whenever any risk, the risk has an impact on, these are the triads of project management, okay, scope, time and cost. Anything happening, it has an impact on the scope, time and cost. So probably good practice, what I would suggest here is that to have you need to have a proper project management approach, what I would say in short. But if you talk about proper project management approach, then you need to have a predefined scope, you need to have your stakeholder analysis done properly, you need to have the communication management plan developed properly, then you need to have your resource management developed properly, you have to have your risk management or your risk register updated and reviewed regularly. So this will really, these are the things which I can say good practices which can really reduce the impact on 3 factors. Keshav, I finished with the question.
Yeah, I think now we have answered most of the questions, so we can conclude the session now.
Okay, so at the end, what I would say here is that thank you guys, thanks to all the participants who participated in this webinar, and once again I would like to thank TechGig for providing this opportunity. And I just want to highlight one thing out here is that there are participants, I had invited participants from Dubai itself to participate in this webinar of mine. So I believe TechGig is reaching globally. And thank you very much, Keshav.
Thanks, Mr. Ramesh, for your informative session on critical success factors for project risk management. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank our participants for the support in making this webinar a huge success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. The next session in TechGig webinar series is happening this Monday, that is 30th January at 3 p.m. Topic for the webinar will be Windows Azure Hands-on Advanced Role Scenarios. We'll be having Mr. Sachin Prakash Sancheti, Principal Architect at Aditi Technologies as our guest speaker. So see you all on Monday. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you.